After signing a 2-year deal worth around $17 million this summer with the Knicks, former Charlotte Hornet and Boston Celtics guard Kemba Walker must have believed the move to New York was the right thing for him to solidify his status as an elite-level player in the league. But on this day in sports, Kemba Walker is worse than a bench warmer, having lost his starting position and then falling out of the Knicks rotation. The bold decision by head coach Tom Thibodeau has been criticized, with some analysts accusing him of disrespecting Walker. But others believe the 31-year-old must rise to the challenge and remodel his game, taking a page out of a book from a player like Carmelo Anthony, who did remodel his game to again command playing time. We are talking about this issue with Alistair Albert. The Knicks have lost 3 in a row and sit 11th of 15 teams in the Eastern Conference. Before we get to Alistair, this is what Thibodeau has been saying about Walker's situation. He said, "As I mentioned before, when I made that decision, I view Kemba as a starter. Right now we have a rotation. He's not in the rotation, but he's working in practice. If a decision's not right, then you make another decision. You gather the information, study it, and look at it objectively. If you're not performing well, there may be more changes coming." Enter the man, Alistair Albert, to give his perspective on Coach Thibodeau's handling of Kemba. Alistair. Yeah.
Thank you, George.
It was just a few programs ago I was saying to you, giving you an account of my time in Charlotte and how the entire city was enthralled to Kemba Walker, how it was his turn and he was a part of the All-Star rotation. And, it was just so good to see a man from the rags to riches story coming to that point. And now we talk about Kemba Walker, and it is a totally different story. Not that his career has stalled, Alistair. It's as if his career has gone backwards. Who are you with in this? Are you with those who say Kemba needs to remodel his game, or are you saying that the coach has given the young man a raw deal?
I think the coach has given him a raw deal, because if he remodels his game, what else is he going to do? Kemba Walker can't change his stature, his size. He's only just under 6 foot. I know that when you look him up on Wikipedia and all of that, it says 6 foot, but he's about 5'10", 5'11". He's a defensive liability, which is one of the main reasons why Coach Thibodeau has taken him out of the rotation. And, when he becomes a remodeled player, retooled player for another team or something, because he will end up on another team, he will just be a catch-and-shoot player, like Carmelo is right now with the Lakers, and when he was with Portland as well. There'll be few opportunities for him to dominate the ball like he had in Charlotte, and a few opportunities that he had in Boston. So he'll mainly just be a catch-and-shoot player with defensive liabilities, which he's always had since he's been in the league. So I don't really agree with the mindset that he needs to remodel his game, because I don't think he can really change it. And also, I think Coach Thibodeau he's shown a pattern. When he was hired by the Knicks, I thought to myself, oh wow, he's going to change the Knicks around. They're going to make the playoffs for the first 2 years, and then he's going to wear out his welcome, because he wears out his players by playing them too much, shortens his rotations, and kind of shortchanges the team in being able to, use deeper rotations and produce. So, I think he's right on path for doing that. Kemba Walker is the first casualty, and we'll see how it goes for the rest of this season and everything moving forward.
Alistair, I must confess to you that ever since my late teens, and I was a huge fan of Stephon Marbury, and he went to New York and his career died, I've just viewed the Knicks and New York and Madison Square Garden as a graveyard for NBA careers. I don't care who you are, you go to New York, it's not going to happen. And I just look at Kemba Walker and I'm saying, yeah, he's the latest man to fall into the wormhole.
It's true, and I think the Mecca has too much of an expectation of the teams that they fielded since the glory days of Patrick Ewing and John Starks and everyone. Managements have come in. We saw this a couple of years ago with Phil Jackson. Everyone wanted him to be the savior, and he kind of messed up that team in terms of contracts given to players like Joakim Noah, Amari Stoudemire, Carmelo Anthony came in. They were supposed to be the saviors. Mike Woodson with that team, they were able to get to the playoffs that 1 year. Jeremy Lin also came in. He had his Linsanity moments. They've had these little sparks of entertainment, but that's all they've been. They've never really put really good structured teams, players who could work together, and always had the right coaches. I think the coaching mix has, since Mike Woodson, I would say, they haven't gotten it right. So management have to also take a deep look in the mirror about the decisions that they make with the players that they bring in, because I don't really think it's all on the players.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because we get the sense from the narrative that everything that's going wrong at the Knicks is Kemba's fault, and we know for sure that's not true at all. Alistair, if Kemba, has to be traded, who comes in to fit that path that coach is trying to get, and where does Kemba go? Where does he fit best?
Wow, who comes in to answer that first question? I really don't know, and because of course it all depends on where Kemba gets traded to. I was having to think about that question. I figured I anticipated that question might actually come up, and the two teams that I think that have stood out for me, people might think it a bit weird, but let's watch this space for a little bit. I think the Phoenix Suns and also the Los Angeles Clippers might be good landing spots for him. The Phoenix Suns, not to start for sure, coming off the bench. I think they could probably trade away Campaign and some of the younger guys that they have that are probably not within the rotation. He's played with Frank Kaminsky in Charlotte. I know he's not really getting much run at the moment because JaVale McGee has done a very admirable job. But I think him coming in to be an offensive player who could dominate the ball a little bit in spurts and stagger the minutes of Chris Paul as a floor general, I think he would be a really good fit there coming off the bench for offensive firepower in the playoffs, in the regular season and everything. For the Clippers, I've never really been a fan of Eric Bledsoe. And from the time he's gotten to the Clippers, he's kind of been very hot and cold like he's been throughout his whole career. So I think the Eric Bledsoe situation with the Clippers, when they get to the playoffs, I think it will kind of come back to bite them in the bum. So I think Kemba Walker with the Clippers, working alongside Reggie Jackson. He's played against Kawhi Leonard in the NCAA tournament. They know each other very well. And just that team comes together. And Tyronn Lue is an excellent coach. So I think he will be a really good fit there. But what the Knicks get back, I really don't know. But it's probably not going to work for them, and they're going to have to wait a couple of years going through the draft and making some very prudent trades that will help them in the future.
I look at Kemba, Alistair, and I say to myself, well, here's a guy who I believe reacts well to a coach who is more arm around the shoulder than kick up the backside. You and I know what kind of coach Thibodeau is, and I just think that's where the problem lies.
The thing about it is, Kemba Walker played, from the time he was in college, he played for a legendary coach in Jim Calhoun in UConn, who demanded quite a lot from his star players, from all his players, but especially the starters. And, coming into the NBA, his coaching tree has not really been the best. He had Paul Silas, who was in his last year, who was a lame duck coach. Mike Dunlap, if you could remember who he is. Steve Clifford, who came in and kind of brought in some tenacity and some toughness to that team and kind of worked well. The 2 seasons that Charlotte made the playoffs with Kemba Walker was under Steve Clifford. That was really good. And Kemba Walker is a good leader. He's one of those players who will do whatever his coach asks him. Run through a wall if he needs to and do everything to the abilities that he has. And I think with Coach Thibodeau, again, I think he's one of those coaches that he has too much of a short leash, and he hasn't given Kemba the time to kind of really meld with the team. He's only played 18 games, averaging 11 points a game. His defensive stats are what kind of really took him out of the rotation. But maybe he needed that offensive firepower, throughout the season. And like he said, Thibodeau said, maybe when you make a decision, sometimes you have to revisit it and make another decision. Maybe Kemba might be back in the lineup. But December 15th is the start of the trade season, and I think he will be on the move. So look out for Phoenix or Clippers.
Yeah, there was a time not so long ago when the Knicks used to laugh at the Nets because all the Nets had Sean Bradley. Yeah. The Knicks can't laugh at the Nets right now at all. That's all the time we have, Alistair. All the best to you. Thank you very much, my friend. Always a pleasure.
No problem. See you guys next time.
Good. That's Alistair Albert, our NBA analyst or expert on the League of the Tall Men. As we wrap this segment, these are the scores of the games played on Sunday. The Jazz squeaking by the Cavaliers, the Raptors taking down the Wizards, the Hornets, the young ball, Michael Jordan's team beating the Hawks, and the Rockets. Does Brian Ramarak still support the Rockets? Is an empty question. Doesn't need an answer. They beat the Pelicans 118-108. Break time.